Hello, my name is Lauren Avila, and I'm doing my project on GMOs in New Zealand. Hopefully you get from this lecture the historical background of New Zealand, and you'll get to know public response to GMOs in New Zealand. And surprisingly, the most interesting thing to me at least, you learn about all the different policies and all the different steps GMOs actually have to go through in order to get approved to be sold in New Zealand's local markets. So that's pretty interesting. I chose this topic because I went to an environmental school in high school. So all 4 years, GMOs, of course, were a pretty prevalent subject. And you'd have to take the pros, you'd have to take the cons stance. And I don't know, I just thought it was really interesting that so much heat can be caused over a subject that there's not really enough scientific evidence to be conclusive of any long-term effects that GMOs can have on our health. So that's why I chose this topic. I hope you enjoy and I hope you learn a lot.
New Zealand is one of the last islands in the world to be inhabited by humans, making this island very young. New Zealand's development of the food and agricultural economy revolved around the high demands of Great Britain during World War I and II, acting as Great Britain's personal farm. No genetically modified crops are grown commercially in New Zealand. Approved genetically modified ingredients can be present in some imported processed foods, for example, soy-based products. New Zealand's location is not preferable in terms of its great distance from the world's major consumer markets. The main GM crops grown overseas are soybeans, canola, corn, and cotton. Only after these have been examined by Food Standards Australia New Zealand and approved by the Australia-New Zealand Food Standards Council can these foods be sold in New Zealand. GM foods are forbidden to be sold in New Zealand before they have been approved by the FSANZ safety assessment process. After thorough investigation, if a genetically modified food is considered safe, FSANZ advises the Australia-New Zealand Food Standard Council, which must give formal approval before it can be sold or used as a food. There are labeling standards for genetically modified food in New Zealand. Genetically modified food must be labeled so consumers are aware of their purchasing options. Some medicines used in New Zealand are manufactured by a process that uses a genetically modified organism. For example, a bacterium or yeast will be modified to enable it to produce a naturally occurring human protein. The Act of 1981 states medicines must be approved by the Minister of Health. Only then can they be sold. MedSafe is part of the Ministry of Health and is responsible for assessing the quality and safety of all medicines before they can be used in New Zealand. 40 to 70% of consumers state their purchasing would remain unchanged given the release of GMOs in New Zealand. 20% to 30% of consumers state they would cease purchasing New Zealand commodities if New Zealand released GMOs, whereas the other countries such as France, Switzerland, and Germany have banned the cultivation or sale of GM products due to the common public mistrust of GMOs. Thailand, on the other hand, has been back and forth about the acceptance of GM foods. Thailand is currently supporting both the growth of organic and genetically modified foods.